Munchkins and viewers alike, it's me Munchie, and welcome back to the channel. In the recent video I made, I talked about refurbishing Kaytee Crittertrails, the awful tiny enclosures that is marketed towards children with the very bright and colorful enclosures, but they're way too small for our companions that they're marketing them towards, which are hamsters, gerbils, and mice. And just to make a mention here, gerbils should not be put inside of plastic enclosures or have access to plastic. The only times that are appropriate for a gerbil to be in something such as a plastic enclosure is when they are traveling and when you're using it for a carrier that is not long term. Well, in this video, I am specifically going to be going over the Kaytee Crittertrails I have collected in my rescue lifetime that I currently still have for educational purposes like this video here. So let me go in depth in this video about what you're seeing on screen, how these enclosures can be made to be safe to use. Now, they're not safe as a main enclosure, but they are safe to use as other things. So we can describe to you how these enclosures that maybe you have at home sitting around, or you are new to the channel here that are realizing, wait, you're saying this enclosure that you're showing in front of me that I have at home right now using for like my mouse or something is too small and bad? Yeah, technically that's what I'm telling you. So I've been telling a lot of people on this channel about bad enclosures and why they're bad. So if you want to learn more, just check out the channel. For now, I'm just gonna tell you how to make these safe. First enclosure is this called the Extreme? They have such stupid names. They have been doing this for 2 decades. They have been rebranding the same designs, the same enclosure, and they have switched from companies, so the people making it before have now decided to just give Kaytee full control within the company to just market it as Kaytee Crittertrails. But they were not always called Kaytee Crittertrails. But that's not the point of the video here, just some little tidbit information for you guys. But let's get into this. This is so messy right here. I recently talked about Beansprout being in this enclosure, and this is actually not the enclosure that Beansprout came in. This one I actually have had for a while, and I've been meaning to talk about it and do my own review video on it. So how can we make this enclosure safe for, let's say, a Syrian hamster? Well, we know Syrian hamsters are way too big to be using this wheel, and this wheel is way too small in general for any hamster, so why not just get rid of it? Because you're not going to be using it, especially if you're using this for a travel carrier. So what you do is you take this part off, and there's a slide inside. So unfortunately, we're going to be needing to take the slide inside out. To do that, you have to take the whole thing off, which this is so annoying to do. And by the way, this one that I have is actually cracked right here. So this is only going to get a few more uses before it's just not usable anymore. These are very cheap materials, especially when you're kind of trying to take them off and put them on. You're putting pressure on plastic that's fragile. So just keep that in mind when you guys are using these as travel carriers or for cleaning with or for accessories inside your main enclosure. So actually, one part to note. I just removed this because I had to get the bottom out so I can remove this ridiculous slide inside of here. But if we're going to be using this for a travel carrier for a Syrian hamster, it is a very bad idea to have these tubes still attached in the travel carrier because Syrian hamsters are too big for these right here. These are so small and they have rims on the inside, so movement is very limited. It's like imagining Simba from The Lion King going through all of those prickly bushes and vines as he's trying to escape the hyenas. Basically, you're doing that to your Syrian hamster here, and it could actually kill him. Take that. You can still, however, keep this part on because what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using end stoppers right here to then attach to the top here and to the bottom. Well, you don't really necessarily have to attach it to the top because the top's not really being used, but all you have to do is attach it to the bottom and this would be a safe enclosure. So just pretend, because I don't have any stoppers on me right now, but you clearly can see me using them on this side. All we have to do is just take out that bloody slide. There we go. Took that out. We can leave the bowl in there if we're going to be using this as a travel carrier and you're going for long periods of time over to your grandma's house or something. And then you want to secure it back up again. And then the next thing is you would have to, if you took a top out right here, have to put a stopper on the top. Now, not all the stoppers are going to fit. That's a problem. Some of them only fit with a rim, which is a surprise to me, but sometimes they will fit without a rim. And even though it's not secure right now, what you could do is you could put tape on top of it to just tape it down if you really think your hamster's gonna somehow be able to get all the way up here and push it out. The other thing you can definitely do is to find something that can be sealed up here. If you really don't want your hamster escaping, there could be different methods. You could even hot glue it, but you gotta make sure that the hot glue isn't sticking out from the outside. You just wanna put all stoppers on the open parts right here, and then your hamster is safely confined. Now, if I did not want to turn this into a Syrian carrier or holder, and this was going to be used for dwarfs, I would just put this back on here and call it good, because dwarfs can definitely get up to the loft area, and they're not going to be big enough to be able to push this top off, because when Syrian owners use these types of enclosures with the loft feature like this, they have a way to unlatch it and to be able to break the top and come off. But due to the factor of the tunnels being very dangerous for Syrians, you just don't want to be using tubes. So this is how you made this enclosure right here safe. Now let me talk about this enclosure right here, which I have deemed unsafe to use. And I can tell you why. So, when you first get Kaytee Crittertrails, they come with their own stoppers, and they look much different from this stopper here. This is the, you have to buy individually stopper. This is the, we come with this cage stopper. I don't know if you can see this, but in the video, these stoppers have been chewed to death. So much so that there's actually holes within the stoppers, right in the middle here. And you want to know what type of animal was in this enclosure as a main cage for a long time? You're going to be surprised when I say this. There was three gerbils inside of this enclosure. And it got so bad that they were chewing up so much of the sides that these were constantly being popped out because they were not staying in securely. They chewed the rim inside of the enclosure, so it's not able to be latched or secured anymore. And because the past owners decided to put plastic tubes inside of there that were completely chewed up, they actually put a tin right here. It's kind of like a jar cap. And they put the jar cap right here to prevent them from getting up because they apparently somehow chewed the rim up here so badly that they had to hot glue this one together to keep it in place before just saying, okay, we give up. I'm just gonna rehome these guys on Craigslist and someone can come pick them up. And that's basically what we did. We picked them up and it was god awful. 3 very skinny, losing hair gerbils that definitely needed our help. And I'm so glad that we were able to help them. But this enclosure, due to the damage that was done by previous animals being inside of here, is not usable because of the safety hazard. So there is going to be cages that you just cannot reuse, and unfortunately would have to either recycle or to put them in the landfill. But once they're broken, you really can't remedy this. This is molded plastic and it's cheap plastic, so they will break. And because gerbils should not have plastic, this was a really big mistake to be putting them inside of here because you've completely damaged the insides. They are just littered with chew marks everywhere. So this is not safe. So I had to at least show you guys a not safe enclosure because of the damage, because it is a possibility that they could pop out anything that you try to put in there. If you want to put a band-aid on that enclosure further, it's just, there's so much hassle. There really is. If you're super creative and want to restore it, I wouldn't bother. I really wouldn't. Now, let's talk about these enclosures, the very tall vertical enclosures. Right now, I'm just gonna stop you right there and say, don't repurpose this as a travel carrier or holding carrier for your hamster because they don't need vertical space. And due to the height of this enclosure right here, they can have significant fall damage. And that could be damaging neurologically and physically. Physical when it comes to limbs, if they fall on their limbs, they could break them, they could break their spine. And if they fall on their heads, they can have neurological damage, brain damage, and it would not be fun. And that's where you see a lot of hamsters start to stargaze because they've been brutally attacked by another cage mate or possibly a litter mate when they are first brought into the world, or they were dropped, or they climbed something very high and fell off and landed completely wrong. These are not good enclosures to be repurposing for hamsters, especially dwarf hamsters. Because Syrian hamsters, they can hold on, but they're not like monkeys, and they will let go, and they will land funny. But for dwarfs, it's very serious. Anything vertical for dwarfs is almost a death sentence or some sort of neurological damage, where we actually have one at the rescue that has seizures and has an eye completely blind in from possibly fall damage or landing on something that she wasn't supposed to land on that was right underneath her. And she also has some sort of spine or limb damage in her back legs from falling. I would not use this. If you want to travel with it, definitely no hamsters in here for traveling with, but if you want to travel with like a couple of your mice, that's perfectly fine. They are capable of climbing and to hang on. But for mice, if you need something to travel with, this definitely could be it. They can fit inside these tubes fine. They can move around just fine. They're nimble like that. Hamsters not so nimble. Mice nimble. And like I said before, don't stick gerbils inside of these enclosures. And lastly, let's talk about this one here. This one is their Connect starter cage, where basically they give you a base and that's it. They're like, yep, this is a base. This is what you could start with, but you gotta connect. That's Kaytee's gimmick, you gotta connect. So what can we do to make this safe? Well, like I said before, we gotta take out that wheel. So let me just take this apart, which this is the easiest thing to take apart. This is why I love using this enclosure for a holding enclosure or for a travel enclosure. Anyways, we took out the wheel here, and guess what, guys? It's safe to use. All I had to do was take out the wheel and it was safe to use. It's now safe to use for mice, for your gerbils as a holding and carrier, and also for your hamsters. Because there's no tubes attached to this one, there was only that very small wheel that's not needed. The pan depth is probably the same size as all the others. They really just don't give you enough pan depth for you to actually add bedding inside of here before it seeps out of the side. But this is fine to be using just as a temporary holding. And it also comes with a water bottle, which is great. You have like a food dish in there, but it does take up space, so you could just scatter feed in there if you had to. But this is so simple and easy. It's great. It's done. And that's how you can make Kaytee Crittertrails safe. Now, I didn't talk about them all, but I wanted to tackle the points of what you might see in most of them, which is the tunnels, it's the wheel, it's the size and the height of it that could be dangerous for your small companion that they market them towards. So, I hope this video was helpful to you guys out there. If it was, hit like to show your support, comment down below with anything you would like to say, and subscribe if you would like to become a part of the Munchkin family here and see more videos from me in the future. But for now, this is how you make Kaytee Crittertrails safe to use. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you again.